Hello, friends. This is Jason White. Welcome to the Great Outdoor Show. Sorry we had a little technical glitch there. The opening didn't come in, but good morning, Whip. Happy to have you today. Thanks for being my co-host again. Really appreciate you.
Always a pleasure being with you, Jason. And again, we want to start off the program letting you folks know that we need you. There's been a crisis in our veteran organizations and throughout that arena. And right now, we are promoting the 988, which we just initiated the first year of utilizing that number. It's nationwide. It also serves for the fact of non-veteran. It's a call in. You don't have to worry about anything of, them taking away your guns or coming to your house or anything as such. It's a concern. You see a personality change in that friend or a family member, we need the boots on the ground. So again, 988, press 1 for dialing in to get some legal counseling. And having said that, Jason, I'll tell you what, buddy, we got a lot of things going on, not only at the MOA with the dog tag program and some up and coming events, but also we want to let folks know that Fayette County has kicked off their county fair. WMBS is going to be out there all day. And later today, I'll be there with my co-host, the Dog Tag Club. And senior citizens are free up until about 2 o'clock.
Well, I want to thank our sponsors, and then we'll jump right in. Marion Outdoorsman Association, Wild Acres Farm, Fishery and Regulated Hunting Grounds, and Washington County Tourism and Promotion Agency. Special thanks to those gracious sponsors of this show. And in regards to upcoming events, Whip, the Fayette County Fair is happening right now, which I was up there recently myself, and fantastic show of, I would say, community passion and drive. Great to see those youngsters so dedicated to what they're doing. Family members, everything from agriculture to, when I was there, they were doing a motocross race, lots of food, rides for the kids, things to see, lots of different booths set up, vendors, etc. You can stop and join the Fayette County Farm Bureau. I highly recommend everybody to join a Farm Bureau. If it's not here in Fayette County, you should join a Farm Bureau anywhere. And the reason I say that is everybody eats. Everybody on this planet eats food. So at the end of the day, you're the consumer of farming goods and products. So if you want to make a difference, whether that's inflation prices, whether that's different policies, etc., laws, you need to get involved, even if it's socially. But we can all make a difference by supporting the Farm Bureau. So again, I highly recommend anybody that wants to join the Farm Bureau. Now, upcoming events, Saturday, August 12th at Wild Acres Farm to Table Summerfest. That's actually hosted by 19 North and also President's Pub out of Washington, PA. Anybody wants to come check that out, there's going to be a lot going on. Music, I know they're having vendors, wine and beer, and they're doing a farm-to-table dinner. To my understanding, it's 5-course, so that's really exciting. Saturday, August 19th and 20th, long-range hunter class. Anybody that's interested in learning about shooting long distance, highly recommend this. If you want to learn to shoot 300 to 500 plus yards and you're not sure how to do it or you haven't done it, great opportunity to learn. I would never recommend anybody going and taking a shot at a wild game at those types of distances without practicing, because either...
Yeah, I just want to add, Jason, that that farm to table was going to be a great event with the, like you had mentioned, but I think particularly it's going to be directed towards bluegrass and country. That's number one. And number two, if you're asking, well, where is this going to be? And it's going to be at 1997 Maury Road, Clarksville, Pennsylvania. And the time frame on that, I believe it's going to be 5 p.m. until 10 or beyond.
Yes, that's correct. And they're actually, I forgot to mention, they're also doing fireworks, to my understanding,
Oh, yeah.
at the end. Yeah. so
Oh,
that,
go
that
ahead.
so that should be kind of cool.
That is going to be cool.
So that's exciting. We got that cooking. Obviously, like I said about the long range class, August 19th and 20th, and then also Saturday, November 18th. We're doing our annual MOA members picnic, and it's also at the same time our annual Veterans and First Responders Upland Bird Hunt, which is held by the MOA Dog Tag Program, which you spearhead. So anybody out there that is a veteran and or first responder, whether you're an MOA member or not, you are more than welcome to come. It's one of our things that we like to do to not only show appreciation but give back to the community.
I got to ask you a question, Jason.
Yeah.
I've heard or I've seen something that you're going to be having a meeting towards the wildlife and the up and coming scheduling of your pheasant and the quail and the chucker.
Oh, yeah. So tonight, actually, anybody that is an MOA member, we're having our Upland Bird committee meeting. Basically, that's for anybody that's interested about hunting upland birds, but also understanding the rules, understanding, I'm going to reiterate about safety practices. I'm going to reiterate about property boundaries, safety zones, making sure that people understand that they're responsible. We're really, I would say, gracious in the fact of what we do to give people the freedom to have the opportunity to hunt on their own, to harvest 7 different species of upland birds. And because it's not like going to a game land. So, you go to a game lands and, what's the rare occasion you're even going to see a dove. But also when they let pheasants out, I've heard so many horror stories of people getting peppered and shooting each other and just ridiculous comments. But we don't do that. We are very cognizant of safety. I can't stress that enough. And this is kind of like us getting together. We do this every year where we get together, kind of have it's kind of like a pre-team, meeting where we kind of go over, hey, these are the rules, these are the ground rules, this is how this is going to be, checking in, checking out, understanding what you have to do, what you can't do. And it's just to make the thing about life, Whip, people need to be accountable.
Absolutely.
And you can't pick up a firearm and, number one, not know how to safely handle it, but also when you get out into the field when it comes to hunting and even fishing, you got to understand there's rules, regulations, whether that's state and federal or it's our own rules within the association. So,
well, I got another question to ask you for the sake of the listening audience. If I decided I wanted to come out to do some pheasant hunting, do I need a hunting license?
So I'll break that down in a couple capacities. If you're going to hunt the 7 upland bird species, you do not need a hunting license, whether that's as a member or if you're just coming as a non-member for a day to do a hunt. But if you come to hunt doves, you do have to have a Pennsylvania hunting license and you do have to have your migratory bird stamp. Beyond all that, all your hunting rules and regulations apply, whether that's safety zones, whether that's obviously pointing a firearm at somebody and shooting at somebody's private property, etc. There's a lot of examples. The orange, wearing your adequate amount of orange, on your head, and also a vest, your square inches of orange. Those all apply. The thing about the birds, the upland birds, is we have these little stickers we give to everybody. So if they harvest a bird, they're responsible to put the sticker on the bird's foot is how you have to do it. That way if you leave the property and for some reason a game commission would pull you over, they can't, and you have 10 birds in the back and you're only allowed to shoot, two at the game lands, they're not going to say, oh, well, you shot over your allotted amount. So that's just to protect everybody and, cover your bases. But that is why it's so critical to have this meeting every year and for me to go over basically a safety talk. So
the aides or the assistants and the staffers know exactly
Yes.
if there are questions come about. Now, the other question is, I'm interested in coming over to do some pheasant hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, well, I don't have a dog, or I don't have, where the fields to go, or where the boundary lines are. How's that expressed, or how's that application applied?
So, number one, anybody that comes and wants to just say they want to hunt the fields on their own, you got to be a member. You got to be a member because at that juncture, that's where like tonight, we dive into all these questions and all these answers. Everything's addressed. Everything's crystal clear as far as how things are going to be handled, what your expectations are, what you should expect of me, etc. So we nail all that down. There's no gray areas. It's black and white. Like, this is how it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can have some of the best times in your life hunting, but I expect you to be safe. I expect you to follow the rules. I expect you to follow the laws. That's my expectations. If people want to come and not be members, then they're required to go with a guide at that capacity. Somebody that does know the boundaries, somebody that does know the rules, somebody that does know the regulations, and then they will guide them as to what they can and cannot do. That's how it is. Safety is so important. I can't stress that enough. And I expect every last person, whenever they come, to be respectful, not only of state and federal laws and our rules, but also you have to be respectful of the craft. You have to be respectful of the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
You just can't be out there doing whatever you want to do and basically disrespecting the game of what we're doing. Like, this is what we do. It's no different than fishing. It's an art. It's almost like, how people say about golf being an art or being a craft or any other sport. Well, when you're doing hunting, especially in the capacity we're doing, it's I don't know if you call it a gentleman's sport or a gentle person's sport, but if you get what I'm saying. But there's a respect factor to how you hunt and how you handle things and how you handle yourself professionally, and it's just, you don't go out there running amok.
Well, let me ask you another question. I have a young son that I'm introducing him to the hunting.
Yes.
And he's like 14, 15 years of age.
Yep.
And he's going to be accompanying me. All right. Does that opportunity provide with the guide as well, or do we have an opportunity to ask for a dog again to make it more exciting for him to get involved?
Yes. I mean, for me, and even with the MOA in general, young people are critical. It's paramount that when we get into those conversations when it comes to safety, no matter if somebody's a member or if they come the day with a guide, they're going to get a detailed safety talk.
Oh, yeah.
And all these things are going to be answered. Now, we've had situations in the past where we had youngsters come out that have never even handled a firearm, and we have a nice clay pigeon 5 stand where people can actually go practice, handling a shotgun and what you do and how to shoot and when not to shoot, and we kind of go over all that stuff. And I can't stress enough, we have some fantastic people that
well, see, that's what I was getting at. That 5 stand would be an encouraging factor,
yes,
to become comfortable in the swing of your gun,
and that goes back to the art of going out and hunting. Like, if you're not ready, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be picking up a firearm and going out in a field.
Yes, but at the same time, at the beginning stages, if you're staging it correctly,
correct.
Okay, and what I'm getting at is that you're having that and as an addition to an opportunity to learn it in a safe manner.
Yes,
that 5 stand is very important at the beginning stages of learning and teaching.
But it's very important that people know and understand not only how to handle a firearm, but know and understand what to do when you go upland bird hunting. There's things you should do. There's things you should not do. I can't go into all of them today, but I mean, some basics is like, you see a pheasant on the ground, you don't shoot. There's numerous reasons why. We basically, it's kind of like a blackballed thing that we. Can you theoretically do it? Yes. I absolutely do not allow it because number one, it creates a very terrible habit. I think it's bad sportsmanship, number one. But number two, if somebody's dog goes after a bird or whatnot, and the bird takes off running, you could very easily shoot the dog without a doubt. We kind of have a standard operating procedure that I tell everybody that the bird has to be above your head before you pull the trigger. If it's not that high, then let it go. And we're very vocal, very adamant about that because, look, my dog, um, my dog is like family. You put so much time and effort into them, training them, and putting
And,
all
and
that.
and the initial cost of getting that
Oh,
dog.
buying a puppy is hunting dog is typically thousands of dollars. I know that's what I spent. And then you spend countless hours working with them, training them. So yeah, to potentially have one of your dog shot is a terrible thought. So again, I've never had an incident in 3 years, and I don't plan on ever having one. We're very, very extremely adamant about the safety practices that we handle.
Well, see, that brings another thought in mind when you were talking about the training of the dog. All right, I just bought a German short hair.
Mhm.
Okay, and like you say, if you go to the game lands or try to find a place where you can really initiate the training of that dog, is that opportunity available at the MOA?
Yeah, absolutely. So people that want to come out and become a member, which I would recommend, if you have a dog, you're not going to go anywhere else where they stock birds weekly. That's what we do. We put birds out for our members to be able to, you know,
Well,
uh,
I can tell you as a witness, I've seen the abundance of the birds that not only are in our pen, but the ones that are released.
oh yeah,
And it is a favorable situation to be in.
and
And,
just and yes, for training alone to have those amount of birds out in a field is huge. That's number one. Number two, as we move forward, we stock every week the 7 species, and then we have birds available if members want to utilize them for training purposes. We can get them out of pen and they can use them. Lots of opportunities there. You're really not going to go anywhere else that I'm aware of with all that packaged together. Yes, you can go to the game lands and hunt for your allotted birds. Yes, you can go to a game preserve and shoot an allotted amount. But when you get into the whole gambit of being able to shoot 7 species, which you're not going to go and do, and also be allowed to train, be allowed to go and hunt, be allowed to shoot more than 2 birds. Um, it's a unique setup. It's a unique situation. And beyond that, we invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of resources into the habitat, which I know I've talked about on past shows, like the different things that we do, whether that's in the fields or even with the creeks trying to improve it. It just makes it better for the birds because at the end of the day, I really want an opportunity to where we're putting these birds out, and you feel like you're in Kansas or you feel like you're out in South Dakota, to where you have a nice habitat for the
yes,
birds.
I've got to give you the credit as well as the board members and everybody that's involved. Back in the day, and we had Dad and I and my brothers, we had time to pre-season to go out into the woods, run our dogs and everything, and the just that dog getting on to a scent, it was like music to the ears. And through the years, it has declined immensely, and it's taken
Well,
away that joy of just being out in nature. But now it's rekindled because I see it what's going on at the MOA.
there's habitat's extremely important, Whip, but two things that I think: the ground and aerial predators today are so bad. People, think about it. When you were growing up, farmers used to do trap lines around their farms. That's like a dying art. I can tell you, this year I'm going to be doing whatever I have to do to trap, uh, to be putting out traps and to be harvesting ground predators because that alone puts a major dent. The other thing, which you handle that within the normal trapping season, but beyond which I would make arguments that there needs to be. South Dakota actually has a nesting program it's a predator program. They actually pay you $10 per hide from the spring to the fall, basically, to go and trap ground predators. And the reason being, when you talk about raccoons, skunks, possums, coyotes, fox, they will go and they'll destroy nests, whether that's turkeys, whether that's pheasants,
Robert.
chucker partridge, rabbits. Yes.
Yeah.
So before these animals even get the opportunity to be full size, they'll destroy the nest, and then additionally they'll kill. Once they're just growing, they'll kill the young ones. So it's very important, and that's something I'm trying to do with the Farm Bureau, is to raise awareness to the fact that these predators have gotten out of check. Number one. Number two, aerial predators. I could tell you last March there were 10 hawks hovering over the farm. 10. That's insane. And the fact that it reminds me a lot of bobcats years ago. I can remember about 15 years ago, you weren't allowed to harvest a bobcat in Pennsylvania. And to me, it comes down to mismanagement of conservation. When we talk about habitat, when we talk about hunting and fishing, it's a balance,
That's right.
And when you get out of balance, that's when you see the scale
That
starting
imbalance.
to tip. And the fact that I hear people saying, well, I don't see any rabbits anymore. I don't see any pheasants anymore. Well, like, at what point does anybody think that, well, maybe something's wrong? And it's very important to acknowledge the fact that these things have tipped the scales. It's not an opinion. It's basic and utter fact. I mean, look at the hide prices on the market. How many less people are trapping? The statistics don't lie. Look at, geez, you can come to my place. You see 10 hawks? Like, are you kidding me? You go through my fields, it looks like a war zone. It's terrible, Like you put birds out, boom, here they come. These policies, not only within the Game Commission, but also USDA and U.S. Fish and Wildlife, they got to be changed. And it starts with talking about it. And that's obviously what we're doing here today, talking about these different things. But they are a detriment to conservation and also the ecosystem. We're way out of balance. Anybody that studies the history of what I'm talking about, you certainly can understand. And if not,
I hope, Jason, that you're involved with the Game Commission as such, and that you bring a light to these imbalanced situations. Now, back in the day when we first reported that we'd seen coyotes here in Pennsylvania, it was on a denied basis. And now they're overrun. We're everywhere. And as speaking of which, I actually witnessed over it. I was sitting in my car getting ready to leave, and I had seen a pheasant fly into the field, and it wasn't 2 minutes later, there was a hawk circle, and it dove right in that vicinity where that pheasant was. So I know daggone well what happened after that.
Well, it's a shame, because it's like, I don't, in my mind, I don't understand. I don't understand from the Game Commission and also USDA, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. I don't understand their perspective as to not managing these things. Why do they feel that not
too rigid?
Well, it's not only too rigid, but it's so like, well, I don't even know what they're looking at. Like, where are they getting their information or their data? Like, who's providing this information? Like, and how are you providing the information? To me, the best person in the world to get information from is the hunter, the fisherman,
and the farmer.
Yeah. And even Joe Smith driving down the highway and he sees a hawk or whatnot on the side. Like, we have such good technology today. We could share information around the world. Why are we not sharing more information and data to provide, like the Game Commission, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, USDA, to be able to provide stuff to show, like, we have a problem? Like, why are we not? I feel like this is something that's been very cumbersome to me.
Well, you know, my opinion is, and I'll get away with it because I don't care. They look at you and see what kind of credentials you have, a sheepskin or years of experience in college or whatever, and all of a sudden, you know, that breaks over your experience on hands-on. And why that's going down that way, I have no idea. But
Well,
like you say, I'd rather talk to an experienced old farmer with all the traits of his knowledge than taking a person with a sheepskin.
I just don't understand how we're making decisions without good information. Like I can recall a conversation I had. Laurel Hill Trout Farm. They're dealing with predation with their trout. Having the blue herons are coming and eating the trout literally out of their raceways. And I think I want to say it's U.S. Fish and Wildlife thinks that there's only like this small handful of heron that actually live in Pennsylvania. Well, number one, heron will migrate. Migratory birds, this is something for everybody to learn. Migratory birds is a very narrow, how do I want to say it, term. They've basically branded between the state and the federal government, they branded this ideology or this idea that all these different birds they migrate. Let's say a Canadian goose. Not all Canadian geese migrate.
Well, you got that right.
I mean, I can go around parts of Pennsylvania today where these geese are localized. Same thing with ducks. Same thing with heron. I could go right on down the line and make this argument. Right at where we actually have our fishery on 10 Mile Creek, just downstream, they call it a rookery. There's blue heron. There must be in the proximity, I'm guessing, of 10 to 20 nests. Like this is the area where a bunch of them nest. Now, that is tell me where I could go and get that data from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, USDA, or the Game Commission. I can assure you they don't have it. And what's also crazy is there's no connectivity, which I think is totally insane. The fact that we have a Game Commission and Fish Commission that don't share information.
Yeah.
To my understanding, we are the only state out of all 50 that has a Fish Commission and Game Commission that are separate, which to me is like, I don't understand. I really don't rationally understand that of why we even did what we did, setting that up that way. But if you're going to be separate, you have to share information. You have to work basically as a team. And when you think about heron going to a fishery and eating their fish, well, clearly there's a connection there. And if we don't have good data to manage these heron, well, maybe we need to shoot, like whether that's shoot them, trap them, and move them to another state. I don't know the defined best practice, but what I know is we have a big problem that's totally gone ignored with minimal data, and the choice is you either move them or you have to remove them from the system.
Well, I can tell you from experience with my property, I'm out in the country also, and I do have heron that are nesting there, and several times through the course of the day, they're down by my pond, all right, and I know exactly what's happening there. As far as the Canadian geese, there's periods of times that my whole yard has nothing but geese in it, maybe 100, 200 geese at one given time. And as far as, in relationship with what you were saying about migrating, no, they're almost through the whole course of the year.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you see it.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a doctorate or be a rocket scientist to go around and see that, yeah, we have geese already here right now and ducks and other species. Like, they're not migrating. They've established this as their home. Now, are there a huge population that do migrate? Absolutely. I'm not gonna say that they don't. They do. I can tell you right now, there's probably right now today at least 4 hawks adults that have 2 different nests at my farm, at our farm, Wild Acres. And obviously they nested and had how many eggs this year that hatched, and we'll see what comes of it. But that's information and data that should be shared with the different, commissions, agencies, etc. And that's a breakdown of communication.
But yeah, it's all well and good that you have all this information that you want to share with them, but will they recognize it? Will they take it into their document, and put it to use?
I think some of them. I think some from what I've seen, the answer is yes. Some from what I've seen, the answer is adamantly no. and it's a no of authority.
Yeah,
I found
exactly.
that I have found that in the bureaucracy of government, that different agencies, and it's not necessarily the agency, it might just be the people within the agency, are very ironclad in their views. And if you come on as an outsider voicing an opinion, they basically look at you like you have a third eye on your forehead, or like basically try to figure out reasons that you're unqualified to give an opinion, or that
Well,
this.
sometimes that third eye is good because it gives you the visionary of where and what you've seen with your two eyes.
Well,
Okay.
I know that we have a lot of issues within the depredation conversation. This Friday, actually, the Secretary of Agriculture is coming to Fayette County over the issue of deer depredation. This is extremely important. So the Secretary's coming here. It's actually, there's going to be a press conference at Duda's Farm. Why? Because our deer management practices are terrible. Terrible. I can't stress this enough. Absolutely terrible. Our deer management practices in Pennsylvania are horrid. Why? Like, number one, let's rewind the clock here. For years, people had to go to the county courthouse to get doe tags. What in the world does the county? Why would you have to go get doe tags there? That never made any sense to me. Number two, now they just added this system, which ended up being a bit of a cluster whenever the doe tag system opened up. The zones are not working. We need to go back to county-based system. Like, anybody that hunts understands, shooting with a rifle or a sniper rifle as opposed to a shotgun, what's more effective? The sniper rifle with the crosshairs.
Yeah.
You're talking some of these zones span 9 counties. 9 counties. Like, how is that effective? How is that effective, and how or who determined those boundaries as to why you would do that?
Real good question.
I mean, then look at it even simply from a promotional standpoint. Hey, come to 2A and hunt in Pennsylvania. People look at you and be like, where the heck is 2A? Come to Fayette County and shoot a big buck. Well, okay. Now I know where Fayette County is. There's no define, like, people don't understand it. But you look at it from the zones. Oh, well, okay, a bunch of people bought licenses from, let's just say, Washington County. That doesn't mean they're going to be hunting Washington County. Maybe they're coming to Fayette County. Maybe they're. Do you understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of issues there. The red tag program conceptually is a good program. I personally have a moral and ethical, I don't want to say issue with it, but I myself cannot shoot a deer in the summertime for numerous reasons. I just can't do it. Shooting a doe when it's got a fawn with it is just, that's, to me, tough. I think our practices need to be changed during hunting season. How do you fix that? Well, more doe tags, more deer tags for the allotted season time. Then you start to get into the red tag program. Let me ask you this question, Whip. I was actually talking to the state president about this the other day. I said, okay, we're having deer problems, and I know restaurant owners that would love to put venison. I would say a Pennsylvania cultural, what would you say, a cultural meal, we'll say, on the table for people to purchase. Did you know that if I go and apply for the red tag program in Pennsylvania at my farm, and I shoot a deer and I take it to the butcher, the game commission will pay the butcher to butcher the animal, and then it can go to a food bank to feed the needy.
Yeah.
Why is this important? This is important because it's okay for people in need or people of hard times. It's okay for them to eat that meat, but that meat's not allowed to go back into the system, like to go to restaurants and whatnot for people to sell it and buy it. Why? You got to ask yourself a question. It's okay for those people to eat it, but it's not okay for other people to eat it. Well, why is that?
Yeah.
It's a policy that you have to go to a USDA facility and have a USDA person watch you